Hi everyone, Scratchy here with a tutorial for Mandelbulb 3D. It really is a beginner's tutorial for those who have never used the program before to get started on how to make amazing 3D fractal images. Right, if you haven't already downloaded the program, you will need to do so. If you go to Fractal Forums and click on the downloads link, you will see the latest version zip file download there. If you click on that and get that downloaded onto your desktop and open it up, you will have Mandelbulb 3D, where you will be confronted by three windows here. Your first window is your main render window. This is where the main images are rendered out. Obviously there's a lot of different settings here that looks quite intimidating when you haven't used a program like this before. Don't worry about that. Over the next few tutorials we will go through those. Your second window is your lighting tab window, where you control the lighting and your colours, all of that kind of thing. And finally, your third window here is your formula window. This is what is used to create the 3D fractals or formulas. I'll get into that in a moment. There is a fourth window which doesn't automatically pop up when you open the program, and that is your Navigator window. I'll get into that in a moment. So let's get started. I'm going to jump straight over here to the Formulas tab. Formulas tab has 6 columns here, each of them numbered, and the purpose is really to, if you scroll over the columns underneath those, you'll see a lot of different named formulas. So what you need to do here is choose a formula for each individual column. So in Formula tab 1 there's a little dot here, and that will show you that we are using the Formula tab 1, and I'll scroll over these columns and I will choose a formula that I think would be good. So a box platinum, for example. So you can see there I've chosen a box platinum because it's telling us that's the one that I've chosen, and it's in Formula tab 1. Now nothing's happened at the moment because you have to make it render to the main screen. What you would do there would be to calculate the 3D button. This sends you an image. Now there's nothing much happening there because we haven't adjusted it as yet. This is where the Navigator window comes in. Press your Navigator button. It opens up a separate window. In here, this is where you use all the adjustment sliders to control the actual formula. Now you can see here it says a box platinum on Formula 1. It's just giving us the same information really that's in this tab here. All the same settings it's showing us on here. So what you would need to do is to play with the sliders, and you can see that it is adjusting the image. If you just play around with those, get something that you think you like, you need to come down to a button here that says View to Main. If you press that button, there's a caption that pops up on the main render window that says press Calculate 3D to render. Press your Calculate 3D button. That renders the image that is in your Navigator screen onto your main window here. Now by default, Mandelbulb set this size of the image here at 480 by 360. Obviously you can change that to whatever size you want it. But for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm just going to keep it small for rendering purposes. It renders a lot quicker that way. Obviously the bigger the image, the longer it will take to render that image out. So coming back to the main Navigator window, if you click with your mouse inside of the window, you will see that you can actually move around it by just moving your mouse. You can scroll in using the mouse wheel and out. Now to stop it from moving around, just click it again in the window. If you don't want to use the mouse, it's sometimes best to kind of use a combination of both. I kind of like to use my keyboard and the mouse at the same time. Underneath you will see here there's some directional arrows. Again, you can use those to control the image on the screen by just clicking those. If you press this little arrow key here, it will open up further options. You can put in the amount you want the directional keys to be affected. So if you only want really small movements, you can put in say 1 for really small movements and you will get smaller movements, and obviously the higher the number, the more it will move around inside of your fractal. But I tend to use a combination of my keyboard and my mouse. Each of the directional arrows does have letters next to them to correspond with your keyboard. So I like to find somewhere that I like, and say if I wanted to scroll up, I would use E on my keyboard to scroll up. It's telling you there E corresponds to the up arrow. If it's not moving quick enough, it tells you here sliding and walking steps, looking and rolling steps. You would just change that number. So if I want them to go a little bit quicker, I will change it to 5, press my E on my keyboard for scrolling up, and it goes just that little bit quicker. So there we go, I'm using my mouse and I'm using my keyboard. I'm going to send that image to the main render, so view to main, move your window out of the way and calculate 3D. So now we've used one formula, we can add to that by using another formula to mix with the first one. If you come over here to your formulas window and click on formula number 2, you can see that nothing's much is happening. Again, if you just hover over the columns underneath, you will see the formulas, so just choose another formula. And I think in this case, there's quite a few here, I will choose manga 3. So instead of, for quickness, instead of always rendering it out to the main window and waiting for the image to render, then opening your Navigator, if you come straight to your Navigator window and press Parameter, it's given us an instant view of those two formulas together. If you view that to main, send it to the main, obviously you will get whatever image is in here onto your main render, and vice versa. If you had rendered something out in your main render window and clicked on the parameter, it's going to give you whatever image is in here onto your Navigator window here. So I'm going to play around with the second formula. So if you just come up here where it's got formula 2, then that tells us that we are using formula 2, which is manga 3. Again, we can just play with the sliders till you find something that you like. Move around, move it up, down, you can rotate it. Once you're happy with that, press your view to main and calculate 3D. And there we have it, there's an image. Right, I'm not going to play around until I get something that I really like, because it can take a while. Sometimes you get something straight away, sometimes it can take a little while. It just takes patience and practice, and over time you will get used to what formulas kind of work with each other and which ones don't. So I'm going to head on over to the Layton tab. Just a brief introduction to what the Layton tab does. We have different colour settings here. You can use your own colour palette. If you just left click on this, it'll bring up a lot of colours there. And to change each colour, if you right click in each individual box, it'll bring up the colour palette. Choose what colour you want, press OK, and it's changed it to that. You can unglue these sliders and move them around individually, or if you want to move them around all together, you would just click the glue sliders button. obviously choose colours to your preference. So that's how you individually choose your own colour preferences. If you didn't want to do that, underneath this box here where it says diff, there's a use a map for diffuse colour. So if you click that, you will get colours, maps. You can import your own into the program. You're not restricted on that, so go ahead and find some colour maps, get them put in the program, or you can use whatever default ones are in the program. Have fun with it. There's loads of different modes. We'll come to that, but I'm not going to confuse you too much at the moment. So we can either use our own palette or use a colour map. Underneath, right at the bottom here, there is some default colours. I always tend to use the preset neutral to start off with, and then I build up my colour palette and my lighting palette from there. But they are great fun. I mean, the metallic ones there, that's good fun if you want something that's got high metallics in it. You can play around with that. Go to the ambient settings. Again, you've got these boxes here, your ambience and your depth, and you've got sliders. So if you want it nice and bright, you can just adjust those sliders. There's more sliders underneath, and these control the shadows, etc. So just again play with those. If you wanted to change your color palettes on these are the default ones. If you right click it on the boxes, or if you left click it, you can choose your own. Again, have fun with that. Get something that is of personal preference to you. Dynamic fog. Dynamic fog is basically putting fog into the picture. As you can see on my image there, I'm just adjusting the slider. You can choose your colour. Again, just left click it, choose whatever colour you want, and just really, you can get some amazing results using that. Just adjust it with the sliders until you're happy with something. You might have to play around with that and the ambient settings to get something that you really like. So that's just a really very basic introduction to how to colour your fractal. The other thing is lighting. Up here we've got another 6 boxes, and these are your lighting boxes. Now each one is different. Obviously I'm using a preset colour, so it's giving us preset lighting as well. Again, it'll throw a little dot to the formula, the lighting tab that you are using. In this case, I'm using a very light yellow, so if you just left click on that, you can change it. Say if I wanted blue, there we go. I can change the intensity of the lighting, so I can have it really bright, or I can bring it down again. Now there's different modes of lighting. You've got your global light, which affects the whole of the image. You've got positional light. On positional light, if you click that, you'll have another little box pops up. You need to put the positional light into the image. Come down to where it says mid, click on that, and it changes to the word image. Using your mouse pointer, come over to the image and just click on the image anywhere where you would like that light to be placed. As you can see, it's placed that light there. These are just basically to help you navigate where you want the light to be put if you need to make some fine adjustments. And under here it says visible. You've got options to make the light visible. You can't tell on mine at the moment because I have hidden it behind the fractal. But if you wanted to say, put the light there, it's visible. You can just see it if I turn that light up. More. There you go. You can see the actual light. So that's what you do with that. And the last option is light map. Basically, it's using a map for colour. It's great fun to use, especially with reflections, stuff like that. So you can use whatever map it is that you want as a light source. And again, you can have loads options there. You can mix global light with positional light. So in this case, if I keep that one there and I decide that I want to put a positional light in, I've got like a red colour there. I'll just turn that on. Go to positional light. Go to the mid button and we click that there. And we want it visible. And you can add lots of different positional lights in different colours all the way around the image or wherever it will be effective for your image. So that's just a very, very brief introduction to how you can use Layton. So once you've got an image and you really, really like your image and you want to save it, you can save it in a lot of different ways. You can save it the picture, so it's obviously going to save that as just an image, JPEG, PNG, or if you want to come back to it, what I tend to do is save to clipboard. So just go to the save to clipboard, and let's make a new document here, and we'll call it begin. Once you've opened that, if you paste, you are going to get what is known as the parameter file. We need to save these parameters to be able to come back to the image at a later time. Or if you wanted to share your image with somebody, they need the parameters to open up in the program to bring your image into the program for them to use. We do like to tend to share parameters. It's a great tool for learning. Or if you do what's commonly known as a Pong in Mandelbulb, you do need to share the parameters. So that's how you save the parameters. So that's how you save them. Another way of saving them is saving them into the program itself. I like to save mine as an M3I, and all that means is I'll just give it a name and save. It just means that when you want to open it up, I've got quite a few different ones here, it just opens up straight away without having to make a long render. It's a bit lazy, I know, but that's how I like to do it. These do save as a bigger file, so please be wary of that. And again, whenever you share an image, if you can't share the parameters, then other people can have a look into your work. But you always need to, for opening up a parameter, you always need to start where it says Mandelbulb, left click, drag all the way down so it's all highlighted. Then you need to copy, then come to open from the clipboard and calculate, and that's given us the image that we had. So that's how you open a file from parameters if you are using somebody else's parameters for your work. So that's just a really, really basic introduction to Mandelbulb 3D. I hope you enjoyed it. I will be coming back with some more tutorials, and I'm going to be doing some features, looking at other people's works, formulas that they use, and just basically getting familiar with the program. So thanks for joining us.